are live. We are live, everyone. Welcome, 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 everyone. Mona Lisa, how are you?
I'm great, Johnny. I'm great. And I think better now than before, because I was always looking forward to this time of the day every Sunday. It's no longer 4 p.m. You know, I tried to log on at 4. I said, wait a minute, Mona Lisa, remember the schedule changed. It's now 5. So I did send the announcement to our viewers. They are now fully aware that we operate now from 5 to 6:30. And after our segment, we have other segments that are coming on the Mojo. So we're growing, we're expanding. So that's good news.
You do realize we almost on, when it's 4 o'clock in Haiti, it's 5 o'clock in the DR. So I hope we're not operating on the DR time.
I hope so too. I know we're not. I am certain that we're not, because we're definitely cognizant as to our time, space, and what we're doing. So
exactly. Well, it's wonderful. Always a pleasure to be with you on Sunday, because we know if it's Sunday, it's time to get our mojo on. So it's wonderful.
Time for everybody to get their mojo on.
Indeed. And our guests are here. We are waiting for one more who will join us midway. So we'll just jump right into it. So it's really been an exciting week. We'll just start with that, and then before we turn over to our guests, exciting week because here in the United States of America, mes amis, et monsieur a appris les pays nous S-hole country, et puis ces pays par la virer tête à bas tant que S-hole country.
Johnny, ou pas fâché parce que vous connaissez nous toujours premier dans toute bagaille.
Oui, c'est vrai. C'est vrai. Parce que le
beaucoup plus semaine ça à quoi me saoulé, finalement convaincu que haïtiens nous pas derrière camionnettes là, nous toujours gon bagaille n'a fait pour tout l'autre pays qu'on vient sous nous.
Avant-garde, we are avant-garde. Kadi, ou songez le tirasta t'es envahi Sénat haïtien, et puis tirasta t'es archita sous chaise président Sénat.
Bien sûr.
But we are teasing about this. We're teasing about this, but it is serious issues. This is our adopted country. And for me, it has been a sobering moment to see how very easily people, I think, don't realize how close we got to experiencing a coup d'etat here in the United States of America. Literally, and these guys planned this because when
well planned,
well planned, because when the police department when they asked for backup from the army, from the reserve, right? They didn't send it, and they had a reason for that. They wanted to give those people enough time to really get into the Capitol building and stop the process, the constitutional process of making former Vice President Joe Biden officially, right, the president, making his election official. And had this happened, 45, right, would have been able to say, God knows, right? Who knows what he was going to say? So I think this really, for me, was an extremely emotional and scary moment.
Certainly was for me.
How was it for you? Tell us. How did you experience this?
Let me tell you, the question I keep asking myself, does that then take away the right of the United States who is neo na business not pay? Like, if do they now have the right?
No, they still have the right.
In other countries' affairs?
Of course, they still have the right.
Okay. Even after all of this?
Of course.
So let me ask you this question, Johnny. Had it been, and this it's I know I try to address this with Freeman Backer, president of HRA, and he says, Mona Lisa, don't go there. I said, had it been our boys from the Black Lives Matter, although Black Lives Matter is not just strict, exclusively Black, however, would the reaction have been different? I thought that it would have been end up in bloodshed on the streets of Washington.
Oh, you know the answer, right? You know the answer. You know the answer. You know the answer because it's already been done, right? It's not something that we are, sort of saying what could it have been. It has been. It was
massive
right?
genocide, right?
Right. Peaceful protests got beat down, right? And we know there would have been a repeat of that. So that's pretty straightforward, right? We know what would have happened. You should have said, if we had a bunch of Muslim Americans who came up from Michigan,
terrorist attack.
Then they're right.
Oh, watch it.
Sculio tapali. But I think it's really important for all of us to and we'll ask our guests to share their perspective on this once we've done the introduction. But we know what would have happened, and for us who live in this country, and this is going to tie in very nicely to sort of the larger conversation we want to have on Le Mojo Show around civic engagement, around people understanding, right, the system, people understanding the process. Every day, we're discovering new things about how the process works in the United States. Whoever thought about they could have stopped the count at the in the Capitol building, right, in the Senate. So quite interesting lessons for me and for all of us, I hope, about the fragility of what we have in the necessity for all of us to be knowledgeable citizens and then active citizens, right? Not just voting, but actively engaging in what's happening here, because we could have been right back to what we left, which was Haiti in this country.
Absolutely. So the last question that I wonder in my mind, while democracy was at risk for a minute, and it turned around to me, in my views, that the Republican Party had committed political suicide for a minute. That's political suicide.
Did they? I don't think so. I think the idea that you had over 140 representatives who still voted no on this, you still had a number of senators, I think it was 6 or 7, who still challenge the election.
This is where justice prevailed now. Justice prevailed afterwards, but I'm saying for that particular moment, as I was watching, I'm like, oh, okay.
I don't think so. I think what you have is, unfortunately, you have a country that is not just divided because the people are ideologically divided. You have a country that is separated, sliced and cut in places in ways that protects a group of people, that puts them together in ways that they don't see anything else. And so those Republicans who voted against Joe Biden at the vote in the Senate, they're still going to be in office come 2 years from now. They're still going to be in office come 4 years from now. They're not going to pay a price. And if there's no price to pay, they won't change. So is it suicide? I think they responded. I mean, it's a catch-22, but they responded to those people who were outside the gate trying to break it down. And those people will reward them in the next cycle. And so we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work.
A whole lot.
But that is not our subject today. Today, our subject is this momentous moment that is, the earthquake that happened in Haiti. I cannot believe that it's been 11 years since this happened. And of course, we will take a minute in a little while to think about those that we've lost and those that are still, I think, suffering both physically and emotionally from that day. But really, our objectives today with our guests is to really get a sense of what did we learn, right? That is our topic today, 11 years later. As diaspora, as Haitians who are living abroad, who are committed to Haiti, who love the country, just like I think we need to question what's happening here, this is an opportunity for us to also think about 11 years later, What are the lessons, and what should we be doing differently, if any? That is the subject for today. So.
Johnny, although it's not the 12th yet, it has been part of our practice that although these lives, they are gone, they're not coming back, but we always like to pay respect. I'd like to pay my respect by observing 30 seconds of silence, although it's not the 12th yet, 4:53 on Tuesday, because this show is dedicated to the memories of those lives that were lost. And 11 years later, I still experience those same emotions that I had 11 years ago. Every time it's this time of the year, I experience that all over again. And for that, I'd like to observe a 30-second of silence, if that's okay with everyone. Thank you. Yes. Dr. Backer, it's a pleasure to have you. Direct from Washington. We're leaving New York. We're flying to DC, Johnny. And from DC.
So flying to DC. I think before we get to DC, we're gonna see. Are we in Haiti, Brother Clerget?
No.
I know you would choose Haiti, Johnny. Something about you in Haiti.
No, I'm actually in New York. I'm not in Haiti right now. I'm in New York.
Ok. Parce que moi c'est bel petit pied bois moi cap qui de do là mon cher et.
No, but recently I just came from Haiti, but I'm actually in New York for a few days.
Very good.
Let me tell you, Johnny, you're right for thinking that this brother is in Haiti, because this is a brother that I could be on the phone with him right now, and the next moment he's on the next plane flying to Haiti. I have no control of him, none whatsoever. So, Brother Harrison, it's a pleasure to see you. It's a pleasure to have you. Just before the pandemic, that was the last time we saw each other. We drove back from Washington.
Right.
Yes. And immediately after that, 2 days later, I've been on lockdown ever since. So it's a pleasure.
And I left right after. I left right after. So
yes, you did.
We've been fighting since. It's a pleasure for me to be on the show, guys. So good to see you. I want to say Happy New Year to every single one of you. I hope this year will be much more better than the last one, because the last one was a nightmare, but we managed to survive it. You know, I'm Elzen Clerget. I'm one of the founding members of the Gaskov Clerget Foundation. We've been in existence since 1999, after the passing of my brother. You know, at that time he was doing a PhD in microbiology. And then suddenly he passed, and then we decided to create that foundation, at least so we can keep his legacy and his dream, you know, alive. And then the dream was to go back to Haiti one day, and then to, you know, get young kids involved into research, into science. And, you know, when he passed, we decided to not let the dream, you know, die with him passing. So, and then we created the Gaskov Clerget Foundation. So we've been working in Haiti since then. And then, you know, we decided to create at least three pillars. We have education, health, and sport. So we've been helping in, you know, healthcare. We finally, 5 years ago, we built a medical center in the Lekai region in Fonfred, where we serve about 20,000 people a year. We serve about 20,000 patients a year. And we send about at least thousands of kids to school. And then we created, you know, sport programs where we keep the young kids involved in sport. And also I'm one of the founding members of Lekai Marathon, where we decided to, you know, get the kids moving and create a movement where we invite young athletes, you know, everywhere in Haiti to come and participate. And also outside of Haiti, we have people coming from the USA, we have people coming from Europe and from, you know, Montreal, at least to come to Haiti and run. So it's a movement that we try to get involved, to get the kids, to get the youth of Haiti involved in, at least give them a sense of hope and try to see how we can better their lives. And then also in our education program, we have young kids that started with us about 20 years ago, now that are doctors, nurses, engineers, lawyers, you know, at least not even in Haiti, in US, in France, in Spain, in Montreal, and also in Haiti, working as young professionals. So somehow we managed to help those that are less fortunate at this to have access to, better education, and then for them to give a chance to work in life. So I don't know if I have to say more, but this is what we've been doing for the past 20 years. And maybe I'll go back on the earthquake later, but for now, I will probably give a chance for Dr. Magali to at least to say a few words about the great work that she's doing with her organization.
Thank you. And I admire the Clerget Foundation and was a very good friend of Gasco. So it was a tough loss, but I am so honored that you guys continue to do such great work in his name. So I'm Magali Emile Bacher, the founder of Haiti Renewal Alliance, also known as HRA, and we are basically diaspora champions. We are the voice of the diaspora. We believe that without the diaspora, and not just Haitian diaspora, but global diasporas in general, that this ongoing movement for empowering people in developing countries, it just would not happen. We are the rock, the foundation, the heartbeat of our communities. And so I think that's one of the things that for HRA, I'm proud to say that we really created HRA to address the ongoing, I don't want to say, we wanted to tackle this concept of aid, right? And so I don't think it was really novel, but I guess we were sort of nuanced in really promoting this movement, trade opposed to aid. And so we started the organization to promote diaspora direct investment through business development and investing in Haiti. And we expanded across the Caribbean as well to really begin to foster this promotion of investment in partnership with local governments, different ministries, as well as entrepreneurs, the private sector, and of course, chambers of commerce as well. And so we got on this path to start this movement. And we've pretty much been on it since. I always say that we were founded out of this disaster. And so we do have the foundation of humanitarianism. So for many of you, you know that we continue to engage heavily in the humanitarian space, not directly from, well, they're twofold. On one end, we work to improve coordination among the diaspora. We try to create best practices, forming partnerships with NGOs, to really hold them accountable and to create more transparent humanitarianism and to tie the humanitarian space with development. Because although we don't want to totally remove humanitarianism, we do recognize that the perpetuation of aid certainly has not done much for the development of not just Haiti, but many countries still struggling to build their GDPs and strengthen their economies. So our focus at HRA is really to tackle diaspora engagement strategies and models that will help build more sustainable models for these countries. And aid is just not working. And so that's pretty much what we've been focusing on. And it's a lot of policy work, a lot of advocacy on the economic side, just really partnership and building networks to try to really believe in the diaspora and invest with the diaspora to form, platforms that could foster more investment, like diaspora bonds and different vehicles like that. So that's pretty much the space that we've been operating on. And I'm really excited about working with not just Haitian media, but with different partners, because we have to coordinate better. And that's one of the things that, I'll discuss a little bit later about some of the lessons that we continue to learn, not just post earthquake, but post Matthew, post Dorian, post COVID, even though that was more mild. Thank God.
Thank God for that.
Yes, thank God for that. So really just the heart of this engagement, these engagement activities is coordination. And so I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that later with lessons learned. Thank you.
Great. Runa, you want me to go?
Yes. So, President, what were some of the most challenging moments that you have encountered as your foundation tried to do this work?
Well, it is always difficult. Finance is one of the major problems. So therefore, it's always, difficult to find enough money because we don't have, access to big grants. We don't have access to large donors that will give us at least $100,000, $200,000 to do the work. So we've been relying mostly on, Haitian board and Haitian, at least within our network for them to, donate. And then what we try to do is to find ways to manage the resources that we have in a very effective manner. So we are very rigid in terms of the fiscal discipline that we apply to keep this thing going. So to tell you the truth, it's not easy, but we are with discipline and rigor and make sure that how we do the work, mostly we don't pay for anything. We don't, if we're going to Haiti, if I'm going to Haiti at least once a month, it has to be come out of my pocket. I have to pay for it. Whoever's coming to Haiti, whoever's providing a service for us or through the foundation, we'll have to at least find the funds to pay for it. Otherwise, we're going to look for somebody else to come and do the same exact thing. So I can say financial resources, it's a major challenge. And then since the service that we provide in Haiti, it's mostly free. Imagine you come to visit to see a doctor, you pay about 200 goods, which is less than $2. And out of that 200 good, you pay another 100 good, we give you medication. So but with 300 good, you come with a doctor's visit plus medication. So it's almost free. So, and then we don't have enough money to cover those expenses because the pharmacy is like the medication, it's about, you said it's about 40 or 50% of the budget to operate the clinic. And what the patients are paying, it's virtually nothing. So therefore, we have to be very smart on how we raise the fund. And then now with COVID, it's even worse because with COVID, everybody's dealing with the same issues that we have. And everybody's pretty hard on giving out because some of them, they don't have it. Because most of our donor base, it's average Haitians that are working and they see the need for them to help. And then they're giving out $100, $200. But now it's pretty hard to come. So I'm pretty sure we've been fighting this for about a year, and it's kind of challenging. So the last fundraiser that we had was the one in New York last March, and then since then that was a big one. And then I'm not saying it was a super spreader, but guess what? We got it on time, and then that's the only fundraiser that we had. And then since then,
that was the last event I attended.
Oh yes, and then that was our last event for the year. So it's hard to find grant. It is really hard to find, people that can sympathize with the cause and then be able to, give us the necessary money that we need to meet the budget. We have a fairly large budget because we make sure that, we paid our staff on time. It's a challenge. And then we want to make sure that we have some of the stuff that you need when you come to the clinic. We don't want a patient to come in and then for us to send them back home to go buy a glove, go buy the supplies that you need. So make sure that we have all the stuff on, at least on site. So once you come, the only thing that you need to bring is yourself, and then we try to provide you with the care. But it's not easy. So what I'm asking for, those that are watching, if they want to go back and check us out at the Gaskov Clergy Foundation, or check us at gaskov.org and see how they can donate to support the movement and then to keep the cause going. Because right now, I'm telling you, it's really hard. It's a difficult time, and then it's uncertain. But we're trying to float, but it's not easy.
So let me follow up on this because I'm going to push you a little bit because Magali talked about sort of the need for us to coordinate, the need for us to respond a bit better, the need for us to move away from
aid to trade,
from aid, from humanitarian. And it's an evolution for me to really think about this, but I just want to push all of us, and it's nothing on the foundation per se or any foundation. This is just to really kind of push our own thinking, right? So the Haitian constitutions makes an obligation for the government of the country to provide, I think it's article in the 20s, 22, 23, or whatever it is, that it is a right, for the people in Haiti to receive healthcare and
basic education,
basic education and all that good stuff, right? I wonder, and this is, I want us to sort of step out of not just Clergé Foundation, but just broadly thinking. Are we helping when we, obviously the needs are there. Obviously, if foundations don't go to Haiti and provide that service, the people don't receive it. But are we helping the country, right? We want the country to change. We would want the country to be able to provide those services because they are not only obligated constitutionally to do it by law, but probably and you talk about finances earlier, it is infinitely easier to sort of have one entity, right, that sort of provide these kinds of services to the people as opposed to maybe multiple foundations or organizations that are providing their own services. They have their own staff, they have their own rules, they have, I hear a lot of folks in Haiti who have a lot of problem, for example, with the church folks who go down and they bring doctors, they bring dentists, they bring this, so les blancs fait des fois nous avons problème avec. Est-ce que ça aide nous? Parce que t'aimes pas les créoles qui te parlent en famille. N'a pas les créole. Est-ce que ça aide le nous a aidé dans tout domaine ça yo côté que c'est nous-mêmes qui répondons à tout besoin ça yo au lieu que c'est l'État et pas l'État gouvernement là non pas l'État qui prend responsabilité. Est-ce que gon l'autre gens nous capable approcher réponse à problème ça yo qui dans pays tant que santé tant que éducation?
Bon, moi ça me cap dit là ça c'est que moun que nous gagne chance servir we try to make a meaningful difference in their life. So je pense que existence nous justifiée parce que nous faisons une différence réelle dans l'avancée de monde. Et ça exemple ça me toujours apprendre c'est que on nous dit que nous paraît bord sur plage par exemple, comme on regarde une belle plage là, nous paraît sur plage nous joignent un paquet d'étoiles de mer qui a mouru parce que déjà rentré dans le sable là. On n'a pas de manpower ou bien de resources pour me voir tout back tourner dans la mer. Et si me vois ça tourner dans la mer, moi font une différence en vivant. So objectif fondation de la Scope Clergé et objectif mouvement que nous gagnons, c'est pas changer tout Haïti, mais quand même c'est joindre un série de monde que nous capable bailler une série d'opportunités pour eux même pour sortir tête ou bien pour faire une différence réelle dans la vie. Tant qu'on montre nous te font alliance avec Heart to Heart. Nous avons un jeune patient, une jeune dame qui ont un problème complexe. Nous sortis avec les Haïti, nous menons aux États-Unis, nous opérons, nous opérons, nous dépensons presque $400,000 pour tout processus la fête. Après ça, nous retournons en Haïti, nous sauvons la ville. Ce monde, ça lui-même qui veut un service ça. Son paquet de différences que nous faisons dans la ville.
Non, nous d'accord. Nous prendre un niveau fondation claire. Nous d'accord.
Non, je prendre un niveau.
Nous d'accord 100% que mon aide yo besoin d'aide là.
Moi-même, problème c'est que fondation n'a pas existé si l'État a des responsabilités. C'est la mienne. Si l'État a des responsabilités, bon, je suis Le problème fondamental que nous avons en Haïti, tout le monde peut adresser. Et c'est un problème simple. C'est corruption. Corruption avec impunité. Jodi a ou alloquer $100 millions pour faire l'hôpital, ou a besoin de 20-30 personnes qui reprennent 10% dans $100 millions. Ou pas arrêter $7 millions pour faire l'hôpital là, pour faire quelque chose à savoir. Et puis
OK, on capte ce point ça. Alors quitter avant et Magali va passer au point.
Yeah. Okay. Premièrement,
allez, non.
Unis plein organisation non-profit. So, I mean, I think the United States has, I don't know the exact number, but more than Haiti. Okay. So it isn't the issue of having a nonprofit, right? Development, aid, all of it. Depuis un pays, pas une base éducation, une base santé, une base économie, comme si c'est base là qui manquait. Si pays a une base là, then we can say, okay, no, comme si diaspora n'a ajouté, like Clergy said, we're going to do this, we'll do medical missions, and that's okay, right? Because even in this current health system that we have, you still have all of these local NGOs, different programs that focus on health to add to what the government is doing. So the model of community engagement to improve the current situation of where they are, it's not new, it's not complex. And I think really it's just meant to be a supplement. Right. Now, the problem with Haiti is that when it becomes, we have nothing, I fall, I break my leg, do I have to drive all the way to Cap or wherever the best hospital is to get my bone, corrected? Like, this is where, we do need the diaspora, such as Clergy foundations, because they're going to come from the highest standard of healthcare model, yeah, exactly, right? And bring it into an environment to now begin to sort of, I don't want to say recalibrate, but essentially say, look, the way you're doing it, li pas bon. Now, the problem is we have to learn, and this is part of the lessons, we have to learn to not come and take over, or come and how can we all be in the sandbox and really play so that we don't destroy the little sand castle that we've built together? How can we build it and make it work? And that is the problem. All of these things that we hear is rhetoric. Haitians love this country, they want to see better. But we really, I believe, we just fundamentally don't know how.
Yeah.
Exactement. Ça me dit toujours, et dans la Fondation Gascon Clergé, ou bien Clinique Fonfred, nous pas opérer dans vacuum, ou bien nous pas opérer dans le sens que we don't go out there and do whatever we want.
Right.
So nous opérer under the guidelines of the Haitian healthcare system. Ça veut dire que c'est que santé publique qui va nous permettre de fonctionnement. Ça veut dire que pour nous opérer, c'est eux-mêmes qui va nous supervision tout. C'est eux-mêmes qui fait tout. Avec nous pas même grille salariale pour nous set up how we pay the staff.
I think Cindy, but c'est que I don't want to focus the conversation on Fondation Clergé. I want us to step out. I want us to step out of it because I want us to think about what are the alternatives. Et nous gagnons ambassadeur Joseph là, ambassadeur bienvenue. Nous avons une bonne opportunité pour introduire tout. Alors, nous avons démarré la conversation pendant que nous avons pour venir. Et question que nous avons débattre là, c'est nous posons une question qui est liée à le fait que gagner des organisations en Haïti qui a aidé, qui c'est un bon bagage, qui tout côté. Et moi, les gens disent qu'il y a 1 million, 10 millions non-profit en Haïti, et qui n'est pas vrai, parce que moi-même, je travaille dans le ministère de la planification, et en pile, monde pas comprendre le système, que a 501c3 is not the same as a 501c4, is not the same as, donc, yo dit ONG, il y a 1 million ONG, pas 1 million ONG, il y a enregistré peut-être 300 ONG qui sont enregistrés en Haïti, et par contre, parce que nous vivons, excusez-moi s'il dit long jungle, tout le monde vient, on fait ça, on voulait. Et du coup, il y a pile monde qui vient, qui carrelé tête sur association, NGO, bon, en tout cas. Et donc, pour résumer, pour ambassadeur, ça me développe. Question me développe poser, c'est plus dans le cadre, leçon que nous tirer sur et ça qui passé dans le tremblement de terre là, gens que nous-mêmes dans la diaspora, nous te répondons, et nous répondons en masse. Et si nous tout honnêtes avec tête nous, pas quoi que nous qu'a dit nous satisfait. bon, pas pral trop loin, on juste dit que nous pas que nous a dit que nous satisfaits à moi-même de passer 9 ans en Haïti et à rentrer à Haïti après tremblement de terre là. Déception. Pour moi, rêve que me gagné pour pays et j'aime penser me qu'à participer là, d'un côté nier jodi. Donc, qui ça pour nous apprendre, qui ça nous doit apprendre de gens que nous te répondent après tremblement de terre là et qui pour positionner nous pour quelqu'un l'autre encore. Donc, et ambassadeur, et tout cas introduit tout
Bonsoir.
et dans le débat.
Bonsoir, c'est un grand plaisir pour moi avec nous à Soya. Excusez mon petit peu en retard parce que j'ai un problème avec connexion. Mais il y a un bagage qui frappe ma pile, c'est que pour les tremblements de terre, c'est moi-même qui étais à Washington. Et à 5h43, comme ça, elle frappé. Et quelques minutes après, moi, je reçois un coup de téléphone du département d'État. Est-ce qu'on compte sacrifier dans le pays? Je dis non. Et un tremblement de terre 7.0 frappé le pays, a crasé Port-au-Prince. Là, tout, moi, relais, président, moi, pour me connaître. Premier base, c'est pas président, moi, non, moi, le ministre des Affaires étrangères, pas le ministre des Affaires étrangères, moi, le premier ministre, pas un premier ministre, moi, le président, pas un président. Qu'on y a mal relais, Fritz Longchamp, qui est secrétaire président. Et c'est là, là, dit moi, que par contre, qui va m'oublier. Au moment que la fête est très après, m'oblige à prendre en main pour me répondre à toutes les questions que tu as posées. Et moun commence à me demander qui ça va faire. Et puis, NGO, comme nous sommes là, NGO commence à descendre en Haïti. Et moi, réussi à joindre moun pour me parler avec eux le lendemain. Et puis, moi, dis m'apprendre que moun a quitté Port-au-Prince par des milliers et même millions. Ils pour aller dans la campagne. Alors, tant pis, font façon pour nous voyer aide qui vient Haïti à la campagne côté vous yoye. Pas quitter moun yo vin chita dans Port-au-Prince. Et c'est ça qui passé. NGO vini en Haïti, une quantité, et yo pas allé plus loin parce que dans zone Port-au-Prince là, mais côté moun yo ta allé en dehors. Yo pas allé. Et puis ça qui vient passer, tout le monde a retourné venir dans Port-au-Prince encore. Moi-même, par contre, je suis venu de présenter candidature à la présidence. Et point de vue par moi, position par moi, thème par moi, c'est la décentralisation d'Haïti. Et moi, quoi, c'est là qui gros problème pays ça. Tout bagaille vient centraliser dans la capitale là. Ainsi, environ 80% pays à frapper, c'est ça, Port-au-Prince, pas même 80%, mais 5% pays à frapper, et puis économiquement, c'est 80% dommage là. Donc, c'est ça, moi-même, quoi, que nous faisons pour apprendre. Si nous pouvons réellement solutionner le problème d'Haïti, il faut que nous sortions dans Port-au-Prince et puis aller joindre le peuple là, dehors à côté lié. Et ça, tremblement de terre fait que nous perdu de vue. Il était venu craser Port-au-Prince, permettre de retourner à la campagne de la ville de province pour faire travail là. Pas jamais fait. Moi-même, moi, quoi, c'est là gros problème. L'autre bagaille tout, c'est l'argent qui était ramassé. Par contre, si on connaît que le 31 mars 2010, après le tremblement de terre, le 12 janvier 2010, le 31 mars, il y a une grande conférence qui est faite dans les Nations Unies pour joindre aide pour le peuple haïtien. Et dans la conférence, c'était 13 milliards de dollars. 13 billion dollars. That was pledged. L'argent que vous promettez à Haïti. Eh bien, qui bon l'argent ça aller? Plus l'argent ça, presque tout l'argent ça été aux États-Unis.
Alors,
l'idée c'est
Et moi, c'est que l'important pour nous clarifier parce que moi, c'est que bien content pour faire ce travail de mémoire ça parce que moi, c'est que c'est extrêmement important et vis-à-vis ça nous saute vivre par rapport à ça qu'a fait aux États-Unis et le fait que fake news, conseil d'information qui pas correct, etc., qui deviennent pas problème dans la fin, ben, c'est que l'important que nous fassions un travail qui est très et didactique et rigoureux. Et, ou bien dit que tu as 13 milliards qui te promettent.
Oui.
Et est-ce que, pour ça qu'on connaît, est-ce que l'argent ça qui te promet là, et moun qui te promet l'argent ça, au pays qui te promet l'argent ça, yo te baillé?
À un certain moment, l'on t'a mené toute enquête, moi, te venu joindre que au moins, il y a 7 milliards qui étaient décaissés.
7 milliards qui décaissés. Okay.
7 milliards décaissés. Et dans 7 milliards, ça, Haïti, officiel haïtien, c'est seulement 2%.
Et bon, bah, alors, ma bonne est avec vous,
avec NGO. Je prends un exemple. Exemple, ça lit tout partout, nous connaissons. La Croix-Rouge américaine, le Red Cross, ramassé 500 millions de dollars sous non-tremblement de terre haïtien. Ils ont bâti 3 ticailles en Haïti. 3 ticailles.
Ambassadeur. Et ambassadeur. Non, voilà, bon, Magali, allez. Pas la gueule comme ça, non. Et faut font travail rigoureux, pas la gueule comme ça. Magali, allez.
Yeah. Premièrement, à nous connaître. NGO américain recevoir l'argent pour y faire travail, pas yo. It is the whole purpose of aid is to create jobs. So let's start there first, okay? It is to create jobs for American citizens. And what I say is, you know, to fulfill their projects and yes, to help those in need. On the subject of Red Cross entire purpose is to raise resources for response. You're pas là pour développer pays or anything. So those resources that came in are for the next disaster. Now, the problem with this model, but that's their model and they're clear about it, is that in our minds, we saw this as you received $500 million in the name, the co-ambassador clearly said, in the name of my country's disaster, but it was not meant for my country's disaster because my business model is response. Money comes in, I use a little bit here, and then I go to Philippines for the typhoon, etc. And so I think that we also have to educate ourselves to be very clear about why these exist. Now, that being said, I agree with the ambassador that there were a lot of parasites that came to the country to just take, and it is what it is. So one of the lessons, because we do want to focus on the lessons is we must have control of our country so that people cannot just come in and do what they want. Case in point, Dorian happened. First of all, let me just to let you know, HRA, we don't go on the ground. We support organizations that go on the ground. So that's another thing. The diaspora needs to be clear about what is your capacity, how do you want to serve? So we want to raise resources, provide it to Clerge's group or whoever group who are already there to perform the tasks. So when you have an issue that occurs and you're sitting there thinking, okay, well, we've raised all this money, what are we going to do with it? The coordination matters. So that's the second point. The third point is, in the case of Dorian, the country had control over, the government had control over its country. So there was a group, I will not name the group, that actually went on the ground to do like I guess they thought that happened in Haiti. And they said, no, this is not Haiti. You don't just come here. You have to have a license. We have to verify your medical license. We have to verify who you are. We have to this. You'll get a protocol. Tellement. And I was so proud that the Bahamas handled it that way, because what it said was that when you have a country, that a government that is in control of its country, so they require them to get all of these specifications in order for them to perform the aid. Now, one thinks, oh, that's a lot of red tape. No, it means that they have control over their country. You're in, what is your purpose of your organization? You do it and you're out. It's a liability for the government when all of us in the diaspora coming doing whatever we want to do too. So coordination is important. Ownership of, your role in response is important, and understanding the landscape is important. And then finally, of course, the government has to have control. Unfortunately, we don't have control over our government not having control, but at the very least, to what Cledge's group is doing, they have formed a very close relationship prior to COVID happening, prior to any issues happening, so that in the event of a response, you already have those connections, those local activities laid out, and then you can have a more streamlined aid versus Magali saying, oh, I'm just gonna come in and, oh, COVID is happening, I'm gonna come and do what I need to do. They're like, no, we have a relationship with Clergy. Why don't you coordinate with them? You can, if you have vaccines, ship it to them. If you have medicine, ship it. So then there's a system. Nou pa ka ap travay nan desordre all the time.
But that's
So
exactly
I just, I always want to say I love the Clayton Foundation because they have your protocol.
We have a system. So that's exactly what I'm saying. Parce que the Haitian diaspora needs to organize ourselves. We're not organized at all. So therefore, nous toujours fonctionner dans vos montées. We are working as firefighters. We're not really sitting down, come up with we don't have a plan to execute. And nous come up, well, recently, after the quake, whatever we've learned, we didn't learn anything because I know we made a mistake là encore. Let's say Matthew, for example. Game moon jusqu'à présent, whatever stuff they were collected for Matthew, jusqu'à présent toujours là aux États-Unis. Because we don't have a plan. We are always responding and rushing to the emergency when we are
always putting out fires.
And yes. And then we that's the reason why most of the time we fail to provide an adequate response, because we are always working without a plan, without a master plan. We don't have it.
We have gotten better.
Let's stop for a minute, guys.
We have gotten better. In all fairness, we have gotten better.
Let's stop for a minute, guys. So here's the big question after all of this is said. I know we're looking for lessons learned after the earthquake. We've done a tremendous job as diaspora. But whose job is it to make sure that Haiti is operating, that it has all its resources, that, that monies are put into the right places, and, whose job is it? Is it really our job to fix the problems of Haiti?
No, that's the government job. Listen, ambassadeur
Joseph, tu peux répondre question ça pour nous. Est-ce que c'est job diaspora vraiment vrai? Should we be the first in line? Should we really be the first responders? Ou bien est-ce que pays a lui-même ta doué gen une administration qui gagne un plan d'urgence sur place? OK? En cas de désastre, oui, l'autre pays, l'autre monde ka vinn aider, but there's got to be a system in place. So at which point do we hold the government accountable?
Well, listen, I think we are beating around the bush.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to touch the real problem, because if we touch the real problem, we make some enemies. I don't care about making enemies, because I was at a position to do something, and I did what I had to do. But as long as we don't want to say that the big problem in Haiti is corruption, we're not going to go anywhere. No matter how many millions, billions of dollars we collect, we're not going to go anywhere.
Thank you.
And that's why I came with the earthquake. At the earthquake, I say how much money was pledged. I know 7 billion were already given, including the little 5 million that I personally gathered. Personally, my hands, $5 million. And I made some enemies because of that, because some friends told me, Ray, c'est là pour faire millions, oui.
Ah, de que tu vas dans mon ambassadeur, de que tu vas dans mon.
Et vous faites alors j'aimerais les ambassadeurs.
Eh bon, mettre les Mona Lisa, oui, dans ça, parler les.
En tout cas, moi quoi c'est là. Qui s'en dit Mona Lisa?
Ambassadeur, le bâtiment go seulement d'argent dans tu vas là, ambassadeur.
Ma chère, bon de bagay et moi-même, moi te dit tout le monde et au cabaret à ça. Dit tout 5 comme même petit 5 cop qui viennent, tout pour aller dans fonds d'urgence. Et me voyez tout 5 millions qui rentré maintenant dans fonds d'urgence parce que me dit si c'est sous l'argent ça pour moi faire millions par an, m'a mourir pauvre. Et de fait papa me toujours dit moi m'pas jamais pauvre dans la vie. Ni m'pas jamais multimillionnaire. Mais m'a toujours payé boardroom.
Ouais.
Et jusqu'à présent, c'est ça qui fait m'a payé boardroom. Et personne pas capable de dire moi oh oui, mais on est dans l'argent Petro-Caribé, mais on est dans l'argent pour ici. Et c'est ça qui pose problème pays d'Haïti.
Donc, est-ce qu'on est d'accord que c'est parce que Claire et nous dit le tout, parce que Magali ou d'accord, si problème c'est corruption, nous connaissons cette corruption, ça veut dire que c'est pas un problème capable pas de toutes ressources que nous besoin, mais c'est pas un problème que pas de ressources pour au moins t'as commencé notre travail qui pour fait là.
Non,
et c'est l'âme de l'aller.
Pour l'innovation de corruption. Pour l'innovation de corruption. Corruption et impunité. Parce que ça
et impunité. Absolument.
D'accord avant ça. Vous mettez que Jean Poulier, c'est exactement.
Oui.
Parce que c'est deux bagages, c'est ça qui a tué Haïti.
Parce que moi-même, personnellement, moi, je pense que c'est extrêmement important pour nous porter coup de main, pas nous dehors, comme nous qui dans la diaspora. Mais c'est extrêmement important pour nous qu'embé officiel nous, pour nous qu'embé un check. C'est-à-dire que faut que nous dénoncer la corruption, faut nous dénoncer l'impunité. Tout le monde peut dire. Parce que sont malaisés, c'est des sujets à aborder en Haïti. Et ici, tout qui rend un pile monde confortable. Parce que probablement, you can have a good friend that is a friend of somebody in Haiti, ou un ami qui a mangé dans le pouvoir. So it's a very hard subject to touch.
I think we've been open about corruption. I think that there have been people who have.
No, we have to talk about. That's what I'm talking about.
I don't think we're hiding that. I think
that's what I'm talking about corruption. But pour nous dénoncer les deux, corruption et impunité, parce que ça, imagine, on a fait une volée comme $1 million, il finit gaspiller, and then on n'est pas arrivé. So therefore, you set a precedent.
Okay, that's different.
After him,
it's the enforcement. So that's very different. It's enforcement of, because Haiti has rules and laws.
Of course.
Enforcement of those laws. That's a different story.
Tout ça vient avec impunité à tout.
Non, mais tout à l'heure. Et moi, c'est qu'il y a plusieurs niveaux d'impunité. Je pense qu'il y a un aspect légal, c'est-à-dire qui est institutionnel. Peut-être pas c'est côté Zentabralé, je ne sais pas si c'est l'autre aller, côté que je pense qu'en pile dans nous fait faute. Nous connaissons moun k'ap manger dans corps blanc, mais nous la caillou, nous boire du vin avec yo, bien nous inviter au la caille nous, boire soupape. C'est-à-dire que pas gagner yon prix, you don't pay a social price. Right? We've normalized, we as a society. Il faut que nous admettre ça, c'est pas une diaspora qui vient avec et autant de monde en Haïti qui dit que ou dans le gouvernement et puis cette machine ça va courir. Ou t'es dans le gouvernement.
Johnny me dit ça l'aime en Haïti.
Oui. Donc ti grave 4 mois me déporter sur New York là, vous comprenez c'est lui même t'es toujours à courir jusqu'à ce que m'aller c'est l'aime quitter pays à m'vendre. Vous comprenez? Donc, moi, c'est que, et c'est l'âme, c'est quoi c'est l'âme de aller avec conversation. Moi, pour nous ça, nous t'ai parlé de lui. Et c'est pas, et ça comme des m'badle focus que bon bagay comme si que fondation pas bon ou bien que travail ONG pas bon. Côté comme dit là, oui, c'est moyen plaire. C'est moyen plaire dans le son que
la plaie du doigt.
What is our role? What is our role in
exactly
for, you know, abolishing corruption? Like, I mean, there's corruption here in the United States.
Right.
I mean, all we can do as citizens, and you talked about civic engagement earlier, what we in the diaspora can do is, I know that there are initiatives with United Front and other groups to try to, you know, for us to be in part of parliament or for us to have voting rights. And I get that. That's part of the advocacy. But other than that, I mean, me in Washington, I can maybe have a delegation come here and teach them what it is to govern, help them build capacity around that. Our role is so limited. Parce que nous vivons dans le pays. Nous ne pouvons pas dire, oh, qui ça Magali a fait dans la corruption? I mean, how can I, as an individual, stop corruption? What I can do is I can control my actions, our actions. HRA, there have been opportunities, several opportunities, believe it or not. And we were just like, wow, this is really happening. This person is actually asking me for a portion of our sponsorship. And we told them, keep your money. Did it affect us? Yes. That was money that we could have used for the program. But if it's dirty, I don't want it. So as an individual, my principles and how I govern my organization, I, as an individual and an organizational leader, made the decision to not engage in those activities. But
exactly.
Did that really stop corruption?
Non, mais Magali.
Magali,
c'est salié.
C'est bien. After the quake, nous avons le monde qui a approché nous pour $5-6 million. Pour nous avoir une garantie que nous avons 15-20%.
Correct. Correct. No. There you go. There you go. Exactly.
Somehow you have to stand your ground. So we are working in Haiti, but nous assurons que payroll tax nous paye every time. Ça veut dire que nous pas jamais shortcut, nous passer à côté pour faire tout pareil. Ça veut dire que we go by the book. Afin que le monde s'il comprenne que nous imbéciles. Non, nous pas imbéciles. Ça veut dire que we want to go by the books, nous set some principles. Ça veut dire que ça n'a dénoncé à nous pas capable d'entrer là-dedans.
Exactement.
Nous dénoncer corruption et pour pas vivre en Haïti pour partager la corruption. C'est que nous-mêmes nous prenons stand. Et ça qu'il faut voir pour que nous fonctionnons, nous transparents, nous clairs, et puis nous parlons aucun bagage qui louche à personne. Nous parlons aucun pot de vin à personne à côté pour rien. So somehow you have to set your principles. Et calcul fait que moi pense que nous-mêmes c'est des exemples que nous capables en pile mon regarder exactly. So somehow we are making an impact.
Right.
L'homme nous connaît que il a fonctionné, il parle en corruption, il a bail service mais on l'a toujours. So qui vient pour exister, sont pas entrer dans patauger la corruption avec ça passe ça. So therefore c'est là pour nous et là pour nous aller. Mais moi-même moi pense que le son pour nous apprendre de earthquake avec l'autre et natural disaster qui a privé nous, c'est que nous pas jamais parer vraiment. So we need to better prepare. We need to have a plan. So c'est là.
Bon, nous pas parole là soit faire corruption dans temps pandémie que là, dans temps COVID-19. Dans le temps COVID-19 là, nous avons seul l'hôpital qui est de référence dans le pays pour aider. Et l'hôpital ça c'est l'hôpital Mirbalea que docteur Famer te mettait là sous pied, qui finalement gagne reconnaissance internationale comme hôpital, école, tout ça universitaire. Combien d'argent qui dépensait pour te mettre l'hôpital ça sous pied? $17 millions. Moi j'ai fait une petite étude dans l'argent Petro-Caribé qui c'est 4 milliards et quelques. Si vous te prend environ $170 millions seulement, dans 170 millions ça, nous avons bâti l'hôpital dans chaque département. Dans chaque département, nous avons l'hôpital. Donc, c'est peut-être ça que sans amis, par contre, qui parlait corruption avec impunité qui marchent ensemble.
Oui.
Nous connaissons qui monde qui prend l'argent. Nous connaissons qui banque à l'étranger. Mais gouvernement qui là, pas prêt à le toucher. Parce que c'est eux-mêmes qui mettent là. Donc, tout le temps en Haïti, nous allons avoir une nouvelle révolution avec monde qui pense pays, qui d'accord pour vivre selon moyens. Et puis, pas ramasser l'argent pays à l'envoyer de l'autre côté, chita. Tout le temps, nous pas faire ça. Diaspora capable de faire ça, vous voulez, dans une petite zone, ils sont capables de faire un bon travail. Et moi, applaudis ça. Mais pour le pays a vraiment changé, on a besoin d'un changement de politique et de mentalité.
Yes, yes.
100% d'accord.
C'est important que vous répondiez là pour nous, c'est que à quel point diaspora a engagé dans le travail ça sans que le passal mais involontairement. Pour qui ça me pose des questions ça? Il y a plusieurs groupes dans la diaspora qui essaient de faire des interventions, mais l'autre monde percevoir intervention ça comme des gens qui sont caractérisés comme PHTK ou comme la Valas ou bien caractérisés ou associés comme même voler l'argent pétrolier. Pendant ce temps, monde ça purement innocent. OK? Par exemple,
innocent?
T'as des questions bien, des organisations. Et capable de prendre moi comme exemple, par exemple. OK. Il fut un temps avec le Fonds uni de la diaspora haïtienne, n'a monté descendre, n'a travaillé sur affaire double nationalité, n'a cherché gourmet pour diaspora, par exemple. Il y a des réunions, mal là dedans. Je ne pas quitter pour mon mettre des photos dans la presse. Parce que je ne pas de pour mon percevoir ou bien associer à un série de monde. OK? Mais malheureusement, guess what? Depuis on a fonctionné dans le secteur public là, comme souvler depuis la presse là, photo apparaît quand même. L'inévitable que on va l'associer à des monde non sale et puis ou t'es plus côté là, hey, ou tout prend. So, qui sont nous capables d'éviter pour nous, peut-être dans nos démarches, peut-être dans zèle que nous gagnons pour aider des pays, pour nous pas victimes.
Ou qu'on est en bagaille, moi-même, nous toutes, how do I say this? Let me say it in English because I live in Haiti, so français moins lourd, créole moins lourd, m'bral di en anglais. When I'm doing my debates, I need to be clear. Our focus in the diaspora is just simple. We need to leverage our transnational networks, our contacts, our financial resources, identify 2 projects that are infrastructure projects, whether it's an energy, hospital, whatever, and have a win, and then begin to do that in each department of the country. Use the hometown associations as a vehicle to do these projects and just implement them slowly. Not ti bagay boutique. Problem here avec diaspora, nous, we think too small.
More.
Gade nek Dominicain, nous pral créer une université, yo font bel bagay nan Miabel. This is what I'm talking about. Then the communities will say, ah, c'est diaspora qui bâti collège ça pour nous, c'est diaspora qui bâti ça pour nous. And then all of a sudden the NGOs and all of the corruption, all that stuff is going to go away because there's going to be a level of respect that we will command based on our actions. Pas gen parler en pile, pas gen who's that. Nous pas supposé entrer dans politique. Nous comprendre politique, unfortunately, drives our country. Mais nous pas supposé entrer dans politique profond. There are ways we can do it from a private sector standpoint. And that is personally, I mean, even though you might be a nonprofit Clergé, you operate like a business because that is what a nonprofit is. It's a business.
Oh, yes.
Function your organization like a business. You provide services, find a way to not perpetuate aid, have the people feel empowered. They might even be able to give you $2, whatever, but then you slowly increase it as the economy gets better. But we have to find a way, a model that is going to help us to develop the country without worrying about, oh, who's in office this year? Or is this happening? Too much littérature. On nous just fait ça, nous gain pour nous faire.
But in order for us,
maybe I'm oversimplifying.
But in order for us to do that,
develop things.
No, it's not that difficult. But in order for us to do that, we need to organize ourselves.
Of course,
but even in that, but we send about close to $2 billion. Not transfer.
It's $3 billion.
Why don't we have a financial platform? Why don't we have a bank? Why don't we create a bank?
Well, HRA, we've tried doing that. Tried working with World Bank. It's not that easy. It's not.
But
we need our financial analysts working at Morgan Stanley and
I'm not saying it's easy, but hey, we can try. We can try.
Of course.
At least we can come up with a big project.
Oh, right.
If we have $2 billion transfer, we can do a lot of things.
Well, those conversations are being had, and there have been initiatives.
So therefore,
because HRA and some other groups have tried to work alongside the U.S. government and even with CFI to try to come up with ways to form investment platforms. So it isn't that. There have been some success stories. I mean, obviously, and Johnny knows this, IFCA is one of the success stories, right? So there have been some success stories, but the challenges still remain, unfortunately, lack of infrastructure.
Oh, big time.
Brings me back. It's like the chicken and the egg.
Hold on.
Without infrastructure, on peut pas développer un pays. Point final.
Let me just give you the counter to this. Magali, I agree with you, but everything you just said makes it sound as if Haiti is a jungle and we can come in.
And we can?
We could come in and do infrastructure work. It is not the responsibility of anybody but the state. And this is where I have a particular problem because, look, the entryway and the reason when we talk about corruption and we talk about
Johnny, not to cut you off, but we can
corruption and impunity. Nobody can do it but the state. Whether we want, whether we like, whether we think bad, if you don't have a working state.
Correct.
All of the things that we're talking about here, Magali, ou gen do adesan la, ou gen pi bon ide. Jodi an se Genève kap mene. OK? Se Genève kap mene. Genève est allié. Donc,
oui,
mais Johnny, ça veut dire nous pas ka bâti yon université.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
That's what I mean by when I say infrastructure.
Johnny, this is what I'm saying. Ça veut dire c'est que moi pas vle pour nous comprendre que toute organisation qui fonctionne en Haïti c'est l'envoyer monter. Non. We can form public and private partnership with the government.
Yeah. You can.
Ou pas capable faire rien en Haïti sous pas un permis de fonctionnement. Non.
Oui.
Pas rien sérieux qu'a fait en Haïti.
C'est ça m'a dit. I don't think
comprendre que moun ça pas un permis de fonctionnement. Pas rien de trois l'église, de trois organisations qui viennent. But monsieur Ko, even when we used to do the medical missions, way in advance for nous avoir tout credential médecin à santé publique pour approuver. Then for them to approve the mission coming in. Pour bon superviseur l'on en Haïti pour travailler. Listen.
There's some structure. I think we don't the country credit sometimes.
Haïti pont savant. Haïti bien Jean opéré. Yes.
I spent 3 years in government. I was the deputy chief. I didn't want to throw it because I feel like you.
I mean, we know that. We know.
No, but no, don't do this because you do it well. Don't do that because the problem is if you say I do it well, there's an assumption that there's 99,000 others who are not doing it well. And that's the problem.
But you pas résultat. You pas résultat. Non. Qui sustainable, qui peut résultat, qui une base. This is where
there is a way. I think that sometimes this notion that we're not able to partner or coordinate with the government, yes, there are some challenges, but I do believe that there are. And we've had DPC reach out to us and say, we see you guys are doing really great work, trying to do coordination with disaster preparedness. They reached out to us for partnership. We've had partnerships with MOV. We've had partnership with the Commerce Group. So it is possible, and CFI. Now, it takes a long time to build those relationships. So I don't want to, look at it as, oh, it's absolutely not possible to partner with an entity within the government in order to achieve, projects. I think you can, but it's not negating what you're saying, Johnny. Obviously, corruption does exist, but I guess I tried not to focus on that. And when it approaches me, and then I just have to deal with it the way that I mentioned earlier, which is, okay, thank you very much, but this is not the way we at HRA operates, and then we walk away.
But I'm telling you something. Let me tell you, with the diaspora and what's happening to have to be done in Haiti, it's something basic. You in the diaspora, you may think you're Haitian. There, they don't think you're Haitian. And here's what it is. But by the way, I'm correcting my friend here who says $2 billion. No, it's $3 billion. The latest figure that we sent in 2018, the last figure is $3 billion. And the major thing is, here's the thinking in Haiti. Voyer l'argent, fermer diolo.
Correct.
That's why
we had to get to the point where the diaspora, as Haitians who provide 1/3 of the GDP of the country, we have the same rights with all those in Haiti who are robbing the money. Because if we have the same rights, there are certain things we could bring up. But this thing of that's a great impediment for the country's development.
So what's
the solution?
Même l'on allait sous béton, l'on arrive, yo fin panti sa pour nan yo do. Qui l'on bralé?
Yes. That's it.
Man, folks, I keep going back, and I think maybe we're going in a circular conversation here. We're back to where we were, which is, I'm going to play the devil. No one asked you. Ou voye l'argent, pas qui moun qui te ou voye l'argent dans poche. Qui moun qui voye? Yo met ton couteau dans bagage ou yo met ton zam dans tête ou?
Moun di gen besoin. Fais-moi confiance.
That's my point. What I'm trying to get to, and we unfortunately going to be running out of time, was to think about what other strategies do we need to, and it's the beginning of a conversation. Parce que l'homme tande, chaque fois m'tande moun dim que parce que m'se diaspora m'voye ko ba Haïti m'ta dwe gen droit pour qui ça? Qui est-ce qui mando? Ko pou nan poche ou travail pour li? You make a choice. This is something that I've always lived in my head, right? If I'm walking down the streets and I see some guy, on moun kap mande, et moi el semblon moun qui fume drogue ou ben kap boit tafia. Li mande mon $. N'dil, est-ce qu'on veut manger? Li dit oui. N'dit qui sort veut manger? Li dit menel tel côté. N'dit quelque chose veut manger, m'a mené ou m'a payé pour. Mais moi connais que si me décider me retirer $, ça dans poche moi, me longer le bali, moment que $, ça arrive dans main, li pas $, encore. Ça le fait avec lui, c'est pour ou pas, you can't, and this is the problem that I think we have at the diaspora, and this is the way I wanted to get. We'll continue this conversation. I believe that, in fact, a lot of the work that we do, right, negatively affect the country. Because, in fact, what we're doing is we are
Placing
robbing
the government's role.
Right?
So you're saying we're circumventing the government and we're replacing.
Absolutely.
So you're going back to the question I asked earlier. Whose job is it? Is it our job as diaspora to control or to repair or to fix the problems of Haiti? Pour qui ça n'importe qui ça passe en Haïti qu'on a dit côté diaspora?
We need to have a state that runs. Let me give you another example. So the ambassador talked about, the different organizations that go to Haiti, and I know there's somebody on the comment section who says Clinton, right? The Clinton Foundation went to Sri Lanka right after they had their typhoon. There was no problem. You know why? And you said it earlier, Magali. Mm-hmm. They had a partner, which was the Sri Lankan government. The Sri Lankan government decided what was going to happen. The Clinton Foundation coordinated the exact same thing. As a matter of fact, they took what they did in Sri Lanka and tried to do it in Haiti. Okay? When they were doing it, I spent 2 months working at the Clinton Foundation. And I told them that's not going to work because there is not a central government or a strong government that can make this happen. They didn't want to listen. So I left. I left the foundation because as the only Haitian in the group, they would not listen to what I was telling them. What's the point of being there? All this to say that there is absolutely no way. And NGOs are everywhere. Nonprofits are everywhere. It has to operate within a national system, within a state system. And so, at the end of the day, ou besoin yon l'État qui marche. Ou besoin yon l'État qui capable di, j'en dis là ezen, sou gen moun kap vini, wap mene docteur, what kind of doctor are they? Are they certified? Can they do this? Can they do that? Men bral di ou, an pil nan nou diaspora, nou reme des autres là. Nou reme vini, nou fè sa nou vle, an admet li. Nous remè vini, nous débarquer, nous c'est diaspora, gros chaîne nous nan kounou, gros nous et puis nous débarquer. Nous fait ça anglais. Let's just be honest. And it is the
not way. Not the two organizations you have on this call.
Absolutely. And you would not, those people would not be invited here. Right? So, I mean, and this is why I wanted to say to us in that you are a gem, right? Mm-hmm. And you say it, and if you, Magali, said it as well, that, they've approached you and you said, no, this is not my values. This is how I operate, right? But we know that it's not every organization that's like that. We shouldn't be counting. The reason why there are laws is that we shouldn't be counting on people saying, oh, no, I'm personally not going to do that. What we should be counting on is that we have laws that are applied, and if you break them, tout côté gen corruption. Bah oui, ici tu as la corruption. Pas quitter au Kembo, depuis au Kembo, y a major. So I think the conversation about the role of the diaspora, the role that we need to have, the lessons that we need to learn. We have a few minutes left. I'd love for each one of you to maybe take a minute and maybe summarize your thinking about what you learned and what you would like to leave the audience with in terms of how should we think about, because we know there are going to be other events that happens in Haiti, right, and our heartstrings are going to be pulled again, and the diaspora is going to go to chicken without heads to try to get some things together to respond, right? What are some nuggets you want to leave us with as we close the show? So we'll start with Natalie, and then we'll go to us and then finish with the ambassador.
Well, I will say that it is a choice to serve. And so the earlier question you asked about, well, is it our role? And it's the state's role to develop the country and to govern. And it is absolutely. But I do believe that even in the absence or presence of governance, it is the choice of citizens, the choice of diaspora to serve their nation. So in that choice, I offer three. The first is to understand the context in which you are serving, not be oblivious or disillusioned, and to coordinate with those that have similar mindsets. So with us, we look for people that understand the value of empowering people and direct investment. And that's very important to us. So we partner with private sector and folks that think not just aider, mendiant, bagay mendiant, nous pas faire fundraiser. So we align our philosophies around investing and empowering with our actions. So that's the first thing. Coordinate with people that are similar to you from a partnership standpoint. The second is you must talk to the locals. We cannot, as in point, do things so much in parallel that not fait pas nous. And yes, chaos loves more chaos, but be that light in the chaos and offer solutions. And those solutions can be, instead of us physically going on the ground, as I mentioned earlier, HRA, we try to empower organizations and work with organizations that already have projects. Because why would I go and create a clinic when I can say, hey, why don't we raise $1 million for you, Collegiate Foundation? And so just really thinking about, we don't all need to be chiefs. Some of us should be very good Indians and do that well. And so those are my 3 nuggets. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
So I'm sorry. So I will close by saying that those nuggets come within a framework and a model for how we engage, which is what HRA is trying to do, or is doing, I should say, not trying to do, speaking power to truth, in partnership with the IOM and other entities and other donors and organizations to be able to form that model of coordination where we can actually replicate it, not just for Haiti, but for the Caribbean region at large, and also for all global diasporas. So we welcome you to visit our website so that you can complete our survey. And we ask that diaspora organizations really start thinking about models of coordination in order for us to be more effective in what we do. Thank you.
Well, so the only point that I have to say, I want you guys to think about ways to organize yourself better, because if we want to really, really move forward, we need to organize ourselves. We need to find unity in our strength. We need to be a unified community, because we are not organized. We are all over the place. So that's the reason why most of the time we fail to respond. We provide adequate response to whatever emergency that we have to deal with. So I think that we should sit down and see how we can plan things better and come up with a plan that we can use whenever there is an emergency, so we can at least be more effective on how we deliver the service. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Herzen.
Thank you.
Ambassador, you got the last word of the day. Your words of wisdom do matter. As you were our spokesperson across the diaspora when this earthquake happened 11 years ago, and I recall opening MSNBC, C-SPAN, and there you were as our spokesperson, and you look just as young as you look back then. So what are some nuggets that you have for us, some words of wisdom and lessons that we should learn moving forward, should this occur again? God forbid.
I'm sorry that I may sound sort of negative in the word I'm saying. However, I'm telling people in the diaspora now who are interested in helping Haiti to be very careful. The Haiti where G9 family and associates are the head of the government can kidnap people all the time and do whatever they want. I think that's not the Haiti I am inviting the diaspora to come at this juncture. We hope that the government will take hold of itself and change the situation that will allow the diaspora to come in and help. That's all I can say. Now, I don't think it's the time for the diaspora to be involved at this juncture, because you may be just another subject for kidnapping.
But nous avons toujours organisé, nous avons toujours pris temps ça pour nous organiser tête nous. Pendant qu'on a baillé 9 temps pour l'aller, nous avons organisé nous plus bien, mettre des structures en place pour nous-mêmes dans la diaspora, nous capables efficaces. So that's where we need to go.
Well, Johnny, I'm going to let you close, as I'm going to remain on the platform for our next segment.
Yes, we already have.
Yes.
We already have Dr. Benoit. So, first of all, I just want to prendre une minute pour me remercier et trois invités nous qui étaient là, et Magali Emile Baker, qui c'est une fondatrice HRA, et nous connaissons que we know that HRA is a pillar in the community in terms of whenever you're thinking about the private sector, business, bringing business opportunities to Haiti and connecting Haitians here with Haitians in Haiti, HRA has been there wherever that conversation is taking place. I know that HRA has been branching out into some other work in terms of post-disaster and particularly on the health side. So we are looking forward to hearing more about what HRA is doing. So thank you, Magali, for the work that you and Firme are doing. And I want to say thank you to Clerget for the work that he's doing in Haiti. Really, I think, and as much as, you hear me kind of pushing on the need for us to be more to be strategic about our investment in our resources, I recognize that every life that is saved is a life that is saved. Right? And every life matters. And so I think, the work that you're doing both in healthcare and in education at the foundation and even in community development is amazing. So please do continue. And we hope that folks will take a look at the Clerget Foundation and give it some of the support that it needs. We can make a difference. And I want to thank the ambassador for the work that he had done in 2010, and he's still continuing to be very active, to be working, to be writing about what's happening in Haiti. Ambassador, thank you so much for your life commitment to Haiti and for making sure that our community is knowledgeable. I want to take just really much shorter than I had anticipated in terms of what I wanted to close with. We spent 11 years since the earthquake, and Brother Clerget really kind of highlighted the need for us to kind of bring it all together and figure out, and Magali as well, figure out how do we organize and how do we leverage the existing resources that we have. I think for all of us, Haitian Americans, all of us who care about Haiti, we need to make sure that we take time to learn about truly what's happening in Haiti. And that's only going to be, can only be done by engaging with people who are there and make them really our partners, because they do know what's happening there better than we do. And our work is to be folks that support their effort. Our work is to be allies in the work they're doing. And there are multiple ways to do that. Some of it can be, in the sectors that you like, education, healthcare, community development, whatever it is. Some of it will be in political activism, which is important in terms of advocacy and lobbying, because we do have a role to play there as well. No matter what it is, make sure that you continue to stay engaged, you continue to learn about Haiti. We promise in this show to bring different point of views and to disagree very strongly. Even if we agree with you, we will disagree very strongly because we want to open our minds about the possibilities. And so with that said, I want to thank all of you who were watching. I'm sorry we didn't have a chance to actually go through the questions, but there were quite a few comments. I apologize about that. I'm usually the one that's actually following those comments, but I was engaged in the conversation so much. So with that said, I just want to say thank you so much. We want to say, please continue to follow us. We're going to have Dr. Marcel Benoit in the next segment, who's going to talk about healthcare. Mona Lisa will introduce him. And we also want to acknowledge the fact that there will be Téléimage at 9h. And Mona Lisa will give us more information about the next shows that will be coming. One of the things that we want to do is to lift up every other Haitian Americans who's trying to bring information to the community. There's really no competition. We are talking to each other, we're supporting each other, and we need to do more of that. And so we want to raise awareness to tell you that Brother Valeriu will be coming. He shows today at 9 p.m. He has an amazing show. So please follow him later. And with that, I say thank you so much to our panel. Have a great night. Be safe, stay healthy. And Mona Lisa, I'll pass it on to you to pick it from there with Dr. Benoit.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johnny. And I want to thank our panelists once again. Thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to be with us to commemorate the lives that were lost 11 years ago. I want to continue to encourage you in the work that you're doing, continue to be a partner to you guys. And it's also been a pleasure, my utmost pleasure, to work at your side, every last one of you. You guys are my brothers, my sisters, my partners, and people can always find us together. If they look through our social media, the work that we do together it speaks for itself. So I am proud to be a partner with HRA. We currently have a project that we're working on. Dr. Backer, I was hoping you would talk about that. But we will be coming back very soon to provide details. Herzen, great job, brother.
Thank you.
Blessings to you and your family. God bless your beautiful wife for putting up with you with that love and passion that you have for Haiti. We're going to continue to keep up the great work. Ambassador Joseph, thank you so much. I love you guys. We're just going to continue to do what we do for the motherland.
All right. Thank you so much.